Hello and good morning. Good morning, good morning. It looks like it might end up being a very small group today, which I was expecting it to be a little smaller than the first three, but I will let people in. Maybe give a couple more minutes. Good morning, Chrissy J. Good morning, Mrs. Walsh. Good morning, Coopers. All right, so I will go ahead and start and do my best to let other people in as they come. So we're going to keep this super informal and just chat. I have a presentation that I can share. It might be easier just to have an open conversation and do my best to answer any questions that you might have. So with small numbers like this, just feel free to either type your question in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask me your question directly. I certainly don't mind either way, but what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and just play the presentation, or share the screen so you guys can see, and then just use them as talking points. And if you have clarifying questions, just feel free to ask them. I certainly do not mind. So this is to all talk about the second semester plan for reopening. As I know it at this moment, the district is 100% planning on bringing students back in the month of January for a number of reasons, which I will discuss. But from my understanding, regardless of what the data is showing, the original data elements that were used to determine whether or not we would return, the 100 to 100,000 cases, is not going to be a sole deciding factor on our return. In one of the board meetings, the superintendent specifically said that we will return unless there is a state or national mandate where schools have to close. So we are looking forward to a return. We miss being around kids and in the building, and I'm sure you guys are ready for your kids to be back in the building. So these are just the norms that we abide by, and we base everything off of in terms of our conversation, just recognizing that we want to be as present as possible, valuing everyone's perspectives or opinions. And we all do have a lot of different opinions regarding whether or not we should return or how quickly we should return, etc. We'll keep it student-centered, keep it solution-oriented, assuming goodwill of everyone. And again, you can either ask questions in the chat, or because it is a small group, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask me whatever you'd like. So we're going to talk about the reopening plans, the updated plan or the roadmap that APS is planning on using as we do reopen schools. And then your main takeaway is today, if you haven't already done so, you need to make sure that you complete your declaration of intent for your child in terms of whether or not you are planning on them to return face-to-face or keeping them virtual, or even potentially having them go to Atlanta Virtual Academy. So why reopening in June? We understand now, as compared to October when we were originally going to return, there are a lot of different circumstances. We know that there is an increase in COVID cases. There is definitely a surge that is happening, and we're not expecting to see that surge drop at any point soon due to the timing of holidays, etc. Current research, another reason as to why we're even just making sure that it's out there. Current research regarding children and community spread in schools shows that there is lower spread in schools. So knowing these factors now is going to help the district in making their final decision. There is going to be a comprehensive COVID-19 testing protocol in partnership with health experts, where teachers and students would be able to have access to COVID testing. Not 100% sure at this moment what type of testing that would be, but we're looking forward to getting a little bit more information on what the test will entail itself. So effective launch of in-person targeted intervention. So right now, today on Thursday, we have about 40 students that come into Spark right behind me for intervention supports. The beauty of having students come in the month of, it was late November and all of December, 2 days a week, it has given us time to kind of practice and see everything that we've put in place and how it works well for kids and keeping them safe. So it was nice to have children in the building just to kind of calm the administrative tensions and stress and concerns that we had about children coming back, because we realized that we have an amazing, amazing plan. And we've also learned a few little things here and there in terms of how to work safely with kids and keeping them in their bubbles. So we feel very confident with the plan that we have in place. We know that there's a vaccination in progress, which aids in making our decision and opening in January. And then we understand there will still be risks and well-being considerations for students if we do not reopen, and we definitely understand that. Yes, so Chrissy J, the form, I can send you the form. Your teachers should have sent you an email that has the links to that form, and you can also visit the Springdale Park website, and it has the direct links for that form as well. But before we end today, I'll try and put it in the chat so you guys have it. All right, there are several indicators that the district will be making to, or be using to make a final decision. Again, I feel confident we're returning, and it seemed like Dr. Herring, the new superintendent, feels very, very confident that we are returning. The main reasons is because of the mitigation strategies that we're going to be using in all of the schools. So obviously teaching students and teachers, staff, the consistent correct use of masks, because masks on campus, in the building, and on the grounds outside are expected. They are required. It is not recommended. They are required to be at school, and making sure that our kids know how to use them correctly. Social distancing to the largest extent. So within our building, we have floor decals, we have ceiling signage, we have all types of things to help remind students about keeping 6 feet of social distancing. And for the students or the families that choose to come back face to face, we are limiting the amount of students that we have per classroom per square footage. So for example, every classroom, or the majority of classrooms, are at about 749 square feet, with a few classrooms at about 761. On using a square footage calculator, we were able to determine that 12 to 14 students can fit inside each one of the classrooms. We're going to do our best to stick with 12 kids per class, which will give everyone plenty of room and will still allow for the correct social distancing within each classroom. Hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette. We have hand sanitizing stations in every single one of our classrooms, along with paper towel dispensers, etc. And again, we are encouraging our kids to consistently wash their hands, and we will be teaching them that daily. Cleaning and disinfecting happens a lot at Spark, even right now with very few people in the building. There's constant wiping down of high traffic areas, etc. And then our night crew comes in and really does a great job in cleaning and disinfecting. When we do reopen, Asynchronous Wednesday will be there, and that will be a deep cleaning day. Since no one will be in the building, they'll have an opportunity to clean it very, very well to make sure that we do all we can to mitigate any issues with germs or just contact tracing in general. We are, contact tracing is something that we're going to be focused on at all schools, and particularly at Spark. And based on guidance, let's just say that there is a student that comes in who either is positive with COVID or has been exposed to someone who's positive with COVID. We will make sure that kids stay in their bubble, so we'll be able to contact trace who they've been in contact with for a certain amount of time, and be able to work in collaboration with the district, the local health departments, to make determinations as to whether or not we need to close a classroom or close the entire building. So there will be a lot of mitigation strategies around or surrounding contact tracing. As you guys know, one of the things that we've been doing on the morning news each and every day is to remind kids their responsibility and their role in keeping people healthy and keeping themselves healthy by with our I Can and I Will pledge to mask up, wash up, back up, cover up, and clean up. I think most of those are self-explanatory, but wearing a mask, washing your hands, backing up and social distancing, covering up your cough and or sneeze in your elbow, and then obviously helping us, the teachers, etc., clean their areas and disinfect throughout our day. So I'm going to start with the plan for APS regarding how are they keeping everyone safe in every one of our buildings. And these are things that are also specific to Springdale Park, the main campus, and the kindergarten center. So 4 buckets: air, water, building buses, and people. The district invested $68 million to upgrade our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. Some schools may not have needed that upgrade necessarily, but they also provided additional service and maintenance on 20,000 pieces of those HVAC equipments throughout the entire district. They've upgraded the system filters to the most efficient version our systems can handle, and then they're increasing pre-occupancy and post-occupancy HVAC runtimes, which means even though we can allow students come into the building at 7:30 in the morning, the HVAC is running far earlier than that to get the air within the building circulating and flowing throughout, which is very, very important as far as just having fresh air or having the air circulating throughout the buildings. And then it also runs far later than what it would normally in pre-COVID times in the afternoon. Water, there's been continuous flushing and disinfecting of water sources in our buildings, which would include water fountains, sinks, etc. Why would we have to do that? Because our last day in the building was March 13th, which is a long time ago when you think about it. That means that water has just been sitting there stagnant with no consistent flushing. And so that means the district did test for Legionella within the water system. We've also purchased by PTO, installed bottled water filling stations throughout the entire school. Although we are not allowing students to use and drink from the water fountain, there are water bottle filling stations. So we'll be encouraging parents to send their child with water bottles that they can fill up in the stations throughout the day. And I'm going to get to the question, I promise. Building and buses. So on those asynchronous Wednesdays, there will be use of a fogging machine, commercial grade, to clean and sanitize the school. And those same machines are going to be used on the buses to disinfect daily. So twice daily wipe downs, I think I mentioned in terms of like high common areas or high touch common areas. Use of hand sanitizing station. We are setting the building capacity levels at 60% for in-person learning to implement social distancing. So what that means is, and I'll go into that a little bit more, but just kind of giving you a little front loading right now. 60% means if we have 60% or more of our families coming back face to face, then we may have to think about how can we mitigate possible concerns and continue to social distance. We may have to alter what the district schedule would be. So the district right now is suggesting 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, for a return. If we're over 60%, we may not be able to social distance like we would prefer. So we might have to do a hybrid schedule where group A would come on Monday, Tuesday, group B would come on Thursday, Friday. It's just an example. Doesn't mean that we're going to do that, but just kind of putting it out there just in case. We are not allowing outside entities or organizations use our school or any school in Atlanta Public Schools. They are not able to rent the building. So at Spark, we have a lot of after-school programs. We have a lot of weekend programs. So there's a couple of groups that use our gym for basketball in the morning, volleyball in the afternoon or at night. And then there are other areas within the building on campus that have been rented, but we're not allowing anyone at this time other than students and staff to come into the building in January. And then people. So again, we've got the testing strategy. There will be plenty of PPE for not only our teachers, but for kids if we have to provide them with masks, etc. We're asking families to, send their kid to school with a mask. and preferably 2 masks that they can have and that you can check on daily, but we do have masks at school for students. There will be screening measures. So students, when they get to Spark, before they can enter the building, they will be, their temperature will be taken, they'll be asked a few questions if there are any symptoms, etc. We'll practice social distancing, and we are limiting class size. So let me go ahead and see what questions we have right now. If a class has to be closed, do they all join a virtual group? Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. So if a class has been exposed to someone who has been exposed or someone who is positive, they will still have access to virtual school at home. So we'll make sure that that is very clear to families if we have to do that. Fingers crossed that we would not have to do that. If it's only 12 students per class, how will that work for the teachers? Will the students have the same teachers they currently have? Will club aftercare still be there? So one thing is for sure is that we are not sure until we get all of the data in. So what do I mean by that? We are at 94% of all of our Springdale Park families who have completed the declaration of intent. So they have completed the survey for their kid. But every day we notice that families are changing their minds. They may have chosen to stay virtual to begin with, but maybe after the conversation with me, they've chosen that they're going to send their kid back face to face. So we're seeing some numbers just constantly altered each day. Right now we're at 45% total of our families returning, which equates to 316 students. So if our goal is to keep 12 students per class because of social distancing and the square footage guidelines, that means that your current teacher may not be the same teacher that you have in January. Because teachers also get a choice in whether or not they want to apply to work, to have telework status. So they could work from home virtually still if they meet certain requirements per HR. I cannot tell you which teachers that will be at this time, because not every teacher has been, anyone who's applied for it, they've not necessarily been approved. Some have been approved, but there's still some teachers who are still trying to make a decision. I know of one teacher particularly who's been approved for telework, but she wants to come back. So she's still trying to grapple with the idea of coming back, and she may decide to come back in January. So we won't know until we have all of that data in. Teachers' deadlines to turn in their application status is on January 4th. Parents' deadlines for their students is December 21st. I don't know why those deadlines did not meet, but those did not coincide with one another, but that is what the district has already set. So we've got to wait on all of those pieces of the puzzle before we can say who your new teacher will be or whether your teacher will be the same, period. Will club after school care still be there? The answer is yes. We are going to have the club after school daycare only. If you guys are familiar with the club after school, they also typically offer clubs like ballet or karate or soccer, in any number of different things. We had Pilates one year. We've had yoga for kids. Those clubs will not be at Spark. It's only going to have after school daycare. And again, the reason why is because we don't want to bring in a number of different people that only come one day a week exposing our children. So we're trying to keep it as in-house and as consistent as possible throughout the day. I'm going to go through pass by some of these things. So what are the health screening procedures? This is very, very important because the first health screening measure will have to come from our parents. So we're going to trust that every morning when you wake up and when you're getting helping or supporting your kid in getting ready for school to come to school, you're going to be asking them the questions. How are you feeling? You're going to see if they have a temperature. Because we're going to have to trust you that you're going to do everything you can to keep everyone in our building safe. So if your child is sick or exhibiting symptoms or appears to be sick because you know them best, we ask that you not send your child into school, because we're going to ask the same questions. If they come into school and they're sick, they will have to, they'll get screened, and then they'll be placed in a care room, which is in essence an isolation room, where they will be apart from other people until you can come and pick them up. So we're really asking our parents to do the screenings at home to start the day. Believe it or not, there are parents who will send children to school sick, which is not cool. But I get at times why they feel the need to do that. But when that happens, we're just making other people sick. We're exposing other children to it. So we're asking that you start that off. They have to wear masks. There will be daily protocols in place. Again, where do I want to go with this? So this particular slide is all about what are the measures that will be in place when we do screen, and what if someone tests positive, etc. So I will not be making the sole decision about a classroom closing down or the school closing down. I will be using the district and local health experts within the district itself to help make those determinations. But I think with all of our mitigation strategies, we should be good to go in terms of how we handle it and how we address any potential issues that we may have. All right, so let me look at some of the questions. Will there be orientation? So Miss Chrissy J, I'm assuming that what you referred to as far as orientation is, will there be an opportunity in January for parents to meet potential new teachers? And the answer is yes, but you will be meeting them virtually. So because keeping in mind, the only ones allowed in the building are teachers and students. Parents would not be allowed in the building. So just making sure that you're very aware of that. You will know the bus schedule. So just like every year when we have buses at Spark, we have 8 total buses. Those will still be the buses that'll be running our routes, and they'll be going, and you'll know the specific time of pickup and afternoon drop off. All right. And then also keeping in mind, if you do put your child on the bus, there is no guarantee of social distancing on the bus, depending upon how many students actually get on the bus. So please keep that in mind. And I just want to be very honest with you about that. I have been encouraging families to drive in carpool and drop their children off rather than putting them on the bus, because we can't guarantee no intermingling of classes or of students, etc., because the bus is just a factor that is out of our hands. If we elect to go back and then decide to switch to virtual because it isn't working out, is that allowed? The answer is yes. Okay, so that is a very good question, Mrs. Walsh. Thank you for that. If you choose to start the year face-to-face, that's cool. But if you're like, I'm not feeling it, I'm a little worried, and you want to bring them back to a virtual setting, you can do that. What you cannot do is go the opposite route. You cannot start the year off virtually and then say, and then in early February, hey, Mr. Harness, I want to send my kid. And I'm going to say, nope, you can't do that. And the reason is because our plans will be already in place for social distancing purposes. And we can't have parents changing their mind from virtual to face after we've already started. So I want to make sure that that is super, super clear for everybody. You can go from face-to-face to virtual, but you can't go back from virtual to face-to-face. So what exactly is the plan? This is it. Teachers are coming back on January 19th. And this is for all of the teachers who have not been approved for telework status, all right? And all of my teachers know that if you don't get approved, you have to be back in the building on January 19th. And that's to kind of get them into the building and kind of appease their nerves, because some of them are very, very nervous about coming back. But I think once they come in and see that we can do this, they'll feel much better. So on the 19th, teachers return. On January 21st, kindergarten, first, second, and low incident special ed programs like our autism unit will come back to face-to-face learning. That's January 25th, and then on February 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th will return. So it's coming in waves, but it's a week apart for every individual. How would that work to change your mind from face-to-face to virtual? Would you just tell the teacher? Yes, you will let the teacher know, let me know, let Dr. Tony know, let Ms. Johnson know. As long as you let the teacher know, they're going to let us know, and we will assign who your child will be with. So for example, keeping in mind, you may choose face-to-face to start out. And then you may have Mr. Harness as a teacher. Now I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not going to teach, but you may have Mr. Harness as a teacher. If you go back virtual, chances are you will not have Mr. Harness as the virtual teacher. They will have to be assigned to an actual virtual teacher. The goal is to have students who come back face-to-face with face-to-face people or teachers only. Students who choose virtual will have virtual teachers only. I'm not the biggest proponent of having simultaneous teaching, meaning I'm the teacher and I have students in my class physically and I've got students virtually. I think that is just a little too much, and a lot of the research and things that I've read is showing that it's not working out for schools that choose to go do simultaneous teaching. So we're going to try our best to avoid that, but there may be an outside possibility that we have no choice but offer simultaneous too. So that's but that's how it would work. We would the teacher, you let the teacher know, the teacher will more than likely let us know, or you could just email me or Dr. Tony directly. All right, so the district is proposing up to 4 days of face-to-face instruction a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, like I mentioned. Wednesday will continue to be asynchronous, meaning there's no live instruction, face-to-face or virtual. So there's no virtual or face-to-face instruction on asynchronous Wednesdays. One of the biggest questions I get from parents is, why? Can't they just do virtual? And the answer is no, because I want everyone to understand what it means for a teacher having to teach 4 days a week. Those teachers, along with whoever is in their class, are a bubble, right? They are a 100% bubble that we're trying not to pop in any way, shape, or form. Teachers who are working face-to-face with students face-to-face will be with your children the entire day. In a typical pre-COVID day, they would have their own lunch away from students. In a typical pre-COVID day, they would have specials. The students would have specials in their specials teacher's classroom, but during this time, they will not. The specials teachers are still Zooming in to classrooms because we don't want every class exposed to a completely different teacher every single day, and we don't want that teacher exposed to 300 plus students on any given day. So specials teachers will still be Zooming in to classrooms. So the face-to-face teacher literally will not have a break away from children at all, other than when they say, hey, Mr. Harness, can you come cover my class? And I'll be outside the door with appropriate PPE, etc., while they go and use the restroom if they need a restroom break. But they are going to be with kids during lunch and during specials. So that means that asynchronous Wednesday is super important for them so they can have planning. They can have planning with their grade level peers or their grade level colleagues. That's why Wednesday is so important. Wednesday will be for deep cleaning, and the traditional school hours will return to 8 a.m. and to 2:30. Yes, and that is for virtual and face-to-face. The district believes in equity, and they want the same amount of hours for both virtual students and face-to-face students. I do understand that virtual students will have a longer day, and that is a longer and very tiring day. I completely get it. But in order for us to be able to do this and do this well, equity has to be a factor. So it will return to 8 to 2:30 p.m. What I did here is just kind of give you guys an idea of what it looks like if a certain percentage of student returns to school. So right now, our goal is to have 12 students per class, all right? That is the goal. We can go up to 14 students per class based on the square footage, but I'm gonna start with trying to keep 12 per class. If we have 40% of our students return, that's 280 students. That means we need 24 total teachers in order to create that 12-to-1 ratio that we're shooting for, all right? If we put 14 students per class, at 40% coming back, we would only need 21 teachers to return. The reason why I did this is because we don't know, or we will not know until January 4th, which teachers have been approved for telework status. So I'm just giving ourselves some wiggle room to play around with so we can create the best atmosphere or environment safely for all of our teachers and our staff. You can see at 50%, that's 250 kids. That's 30 teachers that we would need. anything above 60 or more, it may end up in us being hybrid, which would be instead of the 4 days a week, we may have to go down to 2 days a week to accommodate and maintain social distancing. I hope that makes sense. But this is just one way that I'm planning and thinking about it in my own head. So again, that school capacity for in-person learning, this one is an interesting thing. So as we think about these percentages that come back, we also have to think about the percentages that come back per home room or per grade level. And why do I say that? Well, because there's some grade levels that are that have a higher percentage returning than other grade levels. If you had to guess, we have kindergarten through 5th grade. Which grade level do you think has the highest percentage of wanting to send their children in face-to-face? Anybody want to take a guess? You can type in the chat or you can just unmute your mic. Anybody want to take a guess? What grade level has the highest percentage returning? I'm going to answer it for you. It happens to be kindergarten. So right now, we have 60% of all of our kindergartners returning back to the school, 60%. So depending upon the amount of teachers that request telework status, we may have to be very, very creative in how we schedule kindergarten. My first goal would be to try and get them 4 days a week. But if we can't accommodate that, then we may have to go down to a hybrid schedule of 2 days a week. And that's how that would work. So right now, kindergarten's at 60, 1st grade is at about 42%, 2nd is at 41%, 3rd grade has about 43% of them returning face-to-face, 4th grade has 46% returning, and then 5th grade has about 44%. So all of the other grade levels are within a few percentage points of one another, but it's hovering right at the low 40s. And then kindergarten has 60% at this point of students, of families wanting their child to return. And yes, Beatrice, you were clearly correct, this kindergarten. Right, so if 60% hybrid, would the other days be taught virtually? Yes, that is exactly what would happen. So 2 days it would come face-to-face, and then the other 2 days they would be taught virtually. And basically what we would do is just, I'm not saying we're going to do this, but this is just an example. Let's say we have 100 kindergartners, 60% of them are coming back, so that's 60 kindergartners. We may have to say 30 of them will come on Monday, Tuesday, and then the other 30 would come on Thursday, Friday. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it is a legit possibility. Our goal is to offer 4 days a week. All right. So are we able to declare our intent for our family? The answer is absolutely yes. You have until December 21st, which is Sunday, to do that. If you do not complete it, you automatically default to virtual learning, and that's just what it will be. I was getting a lot of questions in other coffee talks. Will parents have another opportunity down the road to declare their intent? And the answer is yes. So the December 21st intent is for the third 9 weeks, all right, for the third 9 weeks, which goes from January to March. You should, from the district, receive another opportunity to declare your intent for the fourth 9 weeks. I hope that makes sense. So you can change it as you see fit, etc. If you choose face-to-face, but you change your mind in the process, students can be changed back to virtual. We cannot change from virtual to face-to-face once we've set that ball in motion. So I want to make sure that that is super, super clear to everybody. All right, I think I'm caught up on questions here in the chat. These are your choices. You still have the choice of virtual school with Spark, in person at Spark, or you can choose Atlanta Virtual Academy, which is not affiliated with Spark at all. All right, so those are still your 3 choices. Is there a deadline to change your mind from face-to-face to virtual? No, there isn't. If you select face-to-face to start off, and let's say your kid comes face-to-face for the first 2 weeks, that's cool. But in that 3rd week, you're like, Mr. Harness, I think I want to bring them back virtual. You don't have a deadline. We will work with you to make that happen. So you should be good. All right. Just keeping in mind, there's going to be a significant difference between pre-COVID Spark in COVID time spark. I mentioned this in our town halls back in the day, back in October, or back in September when we did them. But the same still holds true. The building behind me that you guys see in this picture, our kids, when they come to Spark, they have, especially the ones who've already been in the building and they've had school in the building, they're going to expect Spark to be what it was back in the day. It is going to be significantly different. I really need parents to help children see that it is going to be a different Spark than what they are accustomed to. Why is that going to be different? Well, because we're having to do a lot more things that we did not do. For example, those screening measures, we have to check their temperature and do a lot of those things. Kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth will be coming in through different entryways throughout the entire building, which will be labeled and will be very, very clear for everyone. Why? Because we're trying to keep kids separated as much as we can from one another. So the building directly behind me is called Briarcliff. We have fourth and fifth grade classrooms in that building. So they will be entering, fourth and fifth graders will be entering into the Briarcliff building through the gym door or through the main campus, or the main entrance. Those will be their entry points. Kindergarten, first, second, and third, they will be entering at a different point throughout the building. And we're going to do our best to keep all grade levels at different entry points so we can always be sure of contact tracing and the path that students took to get to their classrooms. And then kindergarten is clearly at a completely different building this year, so it'll be a little easier for them to maneuver because they only have the itty bitties at the kindergarten center. I also want to remind everyone that visitors and volunteers will not be allowed into our building. We have a wonderful community that volunteers a lot of their time to us, but unfortunately, we will not be able to allow visitors or volunteers, meaning parents, grandparents, etc. You guys will not be able to come inside the building, period. And that's just for the safety and well-being of all of our teachers and staff. Usually the first couple of weeks of school, we allow parents to walk their children to their classroom. We will not be able to do that. So I want to start planting those seeds and reminding parents that will not be something that you are able to participate in like we've done in the past. All of the transportation options are still there. Parents will still have the option to place their kid on the bus, walking their children or biking with their children to school, and then in carpool. I am highly suggesting that if you can walk or bike your children to school, do that. That will ease up congestion on Briarcliff as much as possible. So if you can do that, I would suggest that you do that. I'm also suggesting, and this is something I'm surprised I'm saying, but it's just something that I think will help keep everyone safer, is bring your child to school. We're going to have carpool hang tags and all of that information, and in January you'll have an opportunity to come by the school. Similarly, when you're picking up virtual kits and edu-kits, you'll have an opportunity to come and get those things at that time. We are asking parents, if you drop them off, if you plan on returning face-to-face, use carpool, drop them off 7:30 to 8 o'clock. Look at that time, 7:30 to 8 o'clock. We have a lot of families who prefer to drop their children off at 7:55, along with 200 other families that want to drop their children off at 7:55. That is going to be really tough on you all because it's going to be a much larger carpool than we are accustomed to. Do your best to use the entire 30 minutes. If you can be there at 7:30, drop them off at 7:30, 7:35. Usually from 7:30 to 7:40, we have the least amount of parents dropping off in carpool. It picks up tremendously around 7:50, where everyone's trying to do it at the same time. So, okay, the bus is still an option. You'll get all of that bus route information. We'll social distance when feasible, but there is going to be intermingling of students across all grade levels. That means we can't maintain a student's bubble on the bus. So just want to make sure that that is very clear for everybody. Again, we will have the different entry points per grade level for contact tracing purposes. And classrooms will remain with their bubble the entire day. So students will be in that classroom, in their homeroom teacher's classroom, the entire school day. They will eat lunch in the cafeteria. They will eat lunch in the classroom. They will have specials in the classroom. they will be in that bubble. When they go to recess, they will still maintain their bubble, and they will be assigned a zone outside on the playground that they have to stay in. They will not be able to visit other zones, even if there are other children and other classrooms on the playground. Every class will be assigned to a specific zone that they will not be able to leave. Supplies and materials. I want to make sure that this is still very clear to everybody. We will not be doing classroom library checkout because it's harder to maintain and keep everything safe and sanitary if all students have access to it. So we will not be sharing materials. Whatever the kids bring within that day is what they have that day. Will we keep some materials on, on hand to give students in case they don't have something? Of course, but they will not be able to share with their classmates. They will still need to bring their own devices. The devices that they're using currently for virtual school, they need to bring. Why? Primarily because we're going to do our best to try and limit the amount of paper that we have in the building, and then students turning in work to the teachers. And honestly, again, it's just a safety measure. So we want to use devices as much as possible to turn in digital work. It doesn't mean that your kid is going to be on the computer the entire day face to face. It just means we will do what we can to provide digital copies so they can work on it on their computer instead of having to work on it on paper and then turning it in to the teacher for a grade. Students will be required to bring their materials back and forth to school every day, every single day. Why, Mr. Harness? That's a lot for my little to have to log back and forth. I agree, it is a lot. In a normal time, I would never ask our kids to have to do that, but these are not normal times. So they need to bring their things to back and forth each day to school. Why? If we have to quarantine a classroom, this way, if they're at home, they'll have all of their items and everything that they need for class with them already. So that's the reason. Facilities, we have, every classroom already has their desks situated for students. They are socially distanced. It was based off of the square footage calculator, which even gave us an idea of the layout of that particular room. So students will be socially distanced. Classroom tables will be switched to desks. So students will have their own individual desks. Carpets, non-traditional seating is going to be removed. No sharing of supplies, twice daily wipe downs. Book bags, jackets, etc. will be kept at the student's desk. And that, again, is just another safety measure. If you guys remember, kindergartners and first graders and second graders typically hang their stuff on a hook outside the door. We're not going to do that because there's too many opportunities for gathering. So they will enter the classroom and then they will take everything off, unpack themselves at their desk, but that's where they will be. And we do have desk shields for every one of the desks as well. We've ordered about 400 total desk shields, which will accommodate the students that will be returning in January. We'll probably have to do another order for a March return in the event that we need to do that. Cafeteria is not going to be used. We will not be using the cafeteria again because we're trying to keep our children in their bubble. So students will eat they will eat breakfast and lunch in their classrooms or outside on days that they are scheduled. We're going to try and provide as many opportunities for students to be outside as possible throughout the day so they can have a little bit of a mask break while they're eating, and so they can have more fresh air throughout the day, weather pending. I mean, it could be cold or rainy, so there'll be some days where that will not be an option. Again, I've talked about the water fountains and asking parents to send their kids to school with a water bottle, so they can fill in the bottle filling stations. Extra hand sanitizing stations throughout the entire building, and we will even have hall monitors to be placed in the hall to help students get to and from the bathroom when and if they need to that day. The bathrooms are going to be assigned based on proximity to teachers. So every one of our students will know this is the bathroom that I have to go to, right? And this is the only one, because some of our students like a specific bathroom. They're very particular and they want to go to the media center to use that bathroom because it's more private for whatever reasons. I understand, but they're going to be assigned to a specific bathroom that only their classrooms will be able to use. And we're going to continuously make sure that they understand that, and our teachers are going to enforce that. Our hall monitors will also help enforce that. Just to also let you know, in the bathrooms, middle stall urinals for the boys will be blocked off or roped off so they can't be used, to give students space in the event that there may be 2 and or 3 kids in a bathroom at any one time. Again, I mentioned the playground and the playground zones. So for example, the playground turf, it kind of looks like a putting green in the middle of our playground. That would be a zone, and students would have to stay within that zone. The actual playground structure, that would be a zone. And this structure would be wiped down, especially for the high touch areas, daily by our amazing custodial staff. In front of the Hirsch House, there's a huge green, patch of grass. That will be a zone where students will have to be, zoned for. I had a couple of parents say, well, would there be like activities, or like, will they have access to like soccer balls, etc.? That one's a little tougher for us because we don't want students touching the same materials and going back and forth and doing that. So we're going to try to do some things, but certain things where they have to use the same equipment or share the same equipment, we have to be very mindful of. The school day schedule. So one thing I want to make sure I point out is that since we will have a regular school day, 8 to 2:30, our goal is to keep our schedule the same schedule that what you're already accustomed to, that the kids are already accustomed to. So you guys know that every day we have lunch from 11:15 to 12. We're going to still try to do lunch at 11:15 to 12 and keep it the same, because we want to create and continue to have the consistency from face-to-face and virtual school. That hour at the end of the day that we're having to add on, that 1:30 to 2:30, is called the What You Need Now block, or the Power Hour, which will be an opportunity for virtual and face-to-face teachers to teach or elaborate a little bit more on a particular area or in a particular content area that they felt they needed more time on that day. It will also be an opportunity for the kids to get more individualized instruction or small group instruction, etc. So that's how we are going to utilize the 1:30 to 2:30 block. Asynchronous Wednesdays we already talked about. Again, specials will still be virtual. Even though our specials teachers will be physically in the Springdale Park building, they will be zooming into the homeroom the way that we've been doing already at home. The reason is because we want to make sure that they are not exposed to multiple groups of students throughout the day. So yeah, and they will still remain on that regular 7-day rotation schedule that we already have in place. Gifted and ESOL, there will be one change for our gifted. Right now, 5th grade has gifted classes on Wednesday because it is asynchronous. Gifted 5th grade will be moving to a Monday class. This one is still a little bit more tricky for us. For students who are in gifted, for students who are in ESOL or special ed, we do have to pop the bubble a little bit for some of our students. Meaning, if we have 6 classes on our 3rd grade team, every one of those classes have some gifted students in it, right? So that means they would have to either come out of the classes and go to one large room where we would still be able to socially distance them to provide gifted instruction, especially if they're face-to-face. If they're virtual, we'll be able to continue to provide virtual gifted instruction. The same can be said for ESOL and special ed, depending on the amount of students that return and the amount of teachers that return who are our specific teachers who teach ESOL or special ed. So we're still waiting on the numbers to see how that all pans out as far as our overall gifted schedule, but that will be shared with parents as soon as we know. The club will be available for after-school daycare from 2:30 to 6. It will be the only outside organization allowed on campus to provide daycare from 2:30 to 6 for our kids. If you are anticipating registering or wanting your child to be in after-school daycare, I would suggest registering and signing up for it now. Go to our website, go to the homepage, scroll down. You will see an announcement that is specifically for the club. Click on that. It takes you to the registration page. It's just it's a great opportunity to keep your kids at school so you can continue to work or do what you need to do, and you can pick them up all the way up until pretty much 6:30. Again, there will be no after school clubs, so don't confuse the name of the daycare, the club, with clubs. Clubs means there will be no ballet, no karate, no soccer, etc. So we'll just have after school daycare. Any closing thoughts that I might have or just want to share with you guys? Parents always want to know, what can we do to support? Parents have been super supportive already. What I would suggest that you guys do, continue to be kind, not only to us, but to one another. Be understanding that virtual school and what we have been doing is not an easy thing. It is hard because, in essence, teachers are literally having to create, produce, and star in their own children's television program daily. And there are other programs out there that are just far more fun and engaging with much better animation. So we're having to do that, and it is incredibly stressful. Not only is that stressful, but we have a lot of families that are watching the teachers teach throughout the entire time. That's very stressful too, because we have some parents who might like to throw in well, let me suggest something to you. And it's hard. It's hard to do because you still have that, parents watching, producing a television show. Just be kind to the teachers and be understanding that they are doing the best they can. And I really do believe that our teachers are doing a great job. Donate to PTO if you can. And also, last but not least, in the community, do your best to be safe, socially distance, and wear a mask. So I'm going to look and see if I got any other questions. Slightly off topic, let's see. But will there be an opportunity for prospective parents and students incoming kindergarten to tour the school and learn more about the plans for August? I am hopeful that that answer is going to be a big fat yes, Mr. Cooper. You guys need to be able to see it. We want you to see the kindergarten center. We want you to see the main campus. But until we get the go-ahead from the district to allow parents and or visitors, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But fingers crossed that come August 2021, we will be able to provide those tours for parents. And you guys will be able to see where your kid will be all day. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Just not at this time. Any other questions? Any other questions? That's all I've got, so I'm going to stop sharing real quick. All right, if there are no other questions, I think I got everything in the chat. If there are no other questions, I just want to say thank you for hanging out. Have a wonderful holiday. I'll hang back for just a few minutes if you guys want to just hang back and ask me a question without everyone listening. So it's good to see you guys, and thanks for coming today. I'll see you soon.